Dear students, in this module 13, we are going to discuss about the intellectual development from infancy to adolescence. After completion of this module, you will know about the importance of intellectual development and the characteristics of intellectual development from the infancy stage to adolescent stage. And let me see the intellectual development from the infancy to adolescence. Okay, the intellectual development is also referred to as a cognitive development that we know about very well in the previous classes also. The intellectual development is also referred as to the cognitive development. So that intellectual development refers to the gradual growth in what is called cognitive abilities. That ability is to attend, to perceive, to discover, to recognize, to imagine, to judge, to conceptualize, to remember, to learn, to reason, to take a decision, to solve the problems, and include the meaningful speech. And also its consequence growth in knowledge and adjustment to the environment. And the cognitive development is influenced by nutritional, emotional, and social factors. The mental power of newborn infant are immature and undeveloped. The mental powers of the newborn or infant are immature and undeveloped. So it is brain centers and still maturing, and knowledge as birth is practically nil. But even early observers can notice the individual differs in the mental power of infants due to the hereditary differences. The infant's first intellectual responses is to stimulate from the outside world. It is intellectual activities broaden as its power or imaginary grows, and powers of retentions of past sensory experience and their recall develop. The imaginations which is comes to the forefront by about the age of 3 expresses itself through play activities and also serves as a means of intellectual development. Next one is the language development. That language development, the language means that is the mother tongue. It helps to prevailing as well as fostering the intellectual growth, which constitutes the accelerate as children development ability to judge, to reason, and to solve the problems, and starting from the concrete level and going towards the abstract. So that creativity helps in divergent thinking and leading to novel intellectual products and practices. And the psychologist like Jean Piaget points out, the children's cognitive process are not abridged or simplified versions of adult process, but are qualitatively different through the certain common and invariants are also there. So that broadly speaking, the cognitive development of children and can foster by a stimulating home and school environment with a lot of scope for free self activity and opportunities where varied the sensory experiences. Okay, thank you, viewers, and these are the things that happens during the infancy to adolescence for regarding the intellectual development. So these things are essential to survive in the world, and it is interconnected or intertwined with other activities. If one's activities is affected, automatically other development is also affected. I hope you might understand something from this topic, and let me see in the next module. And here I have added some other videos related to the intellectual development of the infancy to adolescence period. Okay, thank you, viewers. Thank you for watching.
Cognitive, so cognitive word, if I tell you, so it is something connected with the mental process of understanding. Okay, so that we are calling it as a cognitive development. So a child cognition means mental understanding refer merely to the achievements in the academic. Is there any role of cognition in developing other dimensions of child's personality? Now, child's cognitive development forms the foundation of many other developments like language, social, moral, emotional development. Okay, that all are the part of cognitive development. Okay, but the question arises that what is the cognitive development? The cognitive development involves a mental process that are associated with taking in, organizing, and making the sense of information processes that include perceiving, attending to, understanding, and recalling the information. All right. let's have a look at the characteristic of cognitive. Okay, so in early childhood, the children start categorizing themselves. All right, one thing, they copy the shapes. Okay, they follow the instructions. All right, and understanding the concepts of days, times, money, and space. This all learning takes place. Okay, during their what we call it at the time of their cognitive development. Okay, so later childhood witness the cognitive development in the terms of increasing capability for social science and abstract thoughts. Okay, they also start thinking about their future careers and seek informations and knowledge from the peers and media. All right.
Again, so this video is about improving intellectual ability. Intellectual ability refers to your capability to do mental activities, and today's competitive world, whether you talk about studies or work, or no matter what country you're in, it's very important to have good intellectual ability. So in this video, I'll talk about 5 dimensions of intellectual ability and how you can improve these. So the first type of intellectual ability is memory. Nowadays, it's very important to remember like places, events, people, or their names. The best way to improve on your memory about something is to keep repeating it to yourself. Say it out loud, repeat it 5 times, or write it down, and you're less likely to forget something. The second type of intellectual ability is verbal comprehension. This refers to your ability to understand what you read or you hear. The best and fun way to improve this is by being fluent at the language that you're communicating in, and you can do this by watching movies in that language or reading books. So you're familiar with how sentences are structured, and you will be better at verbal comprehension. The third dimension of intellectual ability is perceptual speed. Perceptual speed means when you hear something or you can easily and quickly spot the differences or similarities between 2 things. This is very important in decision making. Perceptual speed can be improved by simply playing video games or even teamwork, like team games. When you have outdoor activities in teams or team sports, this helps develop your perceptual speed. The fourth dimension of intellectual ability is inductive reasoning. What is inductive reasoning? It's similar to forecasting. It's like using a sequence to come up with the solution to a problem. Inductive reasoning can be improved by taking these psychometric inductive reasoning tests online. They will greatly improve. They will allow you to follow a sequence and to find a solution using that sequence. And the final dimension of intellectual ability is called deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is all about using logic or generalizations to assess a situation. The 2 best ways to be good at deductive reasoning is to be very knowledgeable about the choice that you have to make, to know everything from all sides, from all aspects, so that it becomes easier for you to choose between 2 things. And the other, of course, best way is to be observant, to observe a case or a situation greatly, and to study it well will allow you to better make decisions about it.
A simplified version of Perry's intellectual development contains only 4 stages. And this is actually developmental theory that applies across all disciplines. Although a student's level of maturity may be advanced in one topic, it may not be in another topic. For instance, although they may have reached the commitment phase in the sciences, they may be still dealing with dualism in the humanities. The more elaborate version of Perry's theory posits that there are 9 positions through which students need to pass on their way to a cognitive maturity. And how far and how rapidly the students progress through this hierarchy depends largely on the quality of the instruction that they're going to receive. It is this flexible aspect of Perry's theory that has made it particularly attractive and useful. At the first position, we have in the cognitive state, dualism. This is going to describe students that are thinking at this stage and they perceive their world in a black and white simplicity. They simply decide what to believe and how to act due to absolute standards of right and wrong. Authority figures like teachers know and teach absolute truth, and all knowledge and goodness can be quantified or tallied like correct test answers. In the second position, multiplicity, there are 2 options. And this is when the student realizes that since uncertainty exists, there might also be a multiplicity of opinions. but to them, the variety merely reflects that not all authorities are equally legitimate or competent. Some students don't even give these competing opinions even any credence. They believe them just to be an instructor's exercise designed ultimately to lead them to the one true answer. And as they advance to the next position, they realize the notion that genuine uncertainty exists, but only as a temporary state that's going to be resolved once an authority figure reaches an answer. Within relativism, students make an about-face and abandon their faith in the authority's ability to identify truth. At this point, they either consider all views equally valid, or there are different opinions within the limits delineated by some standard. In brief, they become relativists with no hope of there ever being an answer. As they move to the next position, they formalize the idea that all knowledge is relativistic and contextual, but they have qualifications. They may reserve the dualistic ideas of right and wrong, and even have subordinate principles for special cases within special contexts. Thus, even in this relativistic world, they permit some instances where facts and figures may only have one possible truth. However, at some point, the students can no longer accommodate all of these internal inconsistencies, and they move to the next position. They may want to make choices, but they lack the clear standards for doing so. They begin to feel the need to orient themselves in their relativistic world by making some sort of personal commitment. And this is going to continue as they move on to the next phase. The next phase being commitment. This is where they actually make an initiative, tentative commitment to a particular view in some area. They're going to actually then move on to the next position. And this is where they experience and examine the impacts and implications of their choices and their commitments. They're going to learn what commitment means and what trade-offs it carries. Finally, at the very last position, students realize that trying on a commitment and either embracing it or modifying it in hindsight of experience is a major part of their personal and intellectual growth. This process is, in fact, a lifelong activity that paves the road toward wisdom and requires the very open mind of an individual.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you for watching, and we will see in the next module. Thank you.